Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Spencer back with some more fantasy football content. We're going to be looking at starts and sits for the week of week 5. I'm going to be giving you 3 of each. Hopefully, these help your teams if you're struggling. Leave some comments down below what you think of these picks. Like and subscribe if you want more videos like this. Let's get right into it. So for my first start of the week, I'm looking at Michael Wilson. The reason being, obviously, he had a big game against a San Francisco defense that has been stout this season. Probably the number 1 ranked defense. 26.6 points, 2 touchdowns. He went off, but I think in general that is promising moving forward of the production we could see from him because Marquise Brown is the field stretching option. Michael Wilson might get a little more production moving forward, and they're up against Cincinnati. So I like the matchup after, facing a 49ers defense. I think you can start Mike Wilson moving forward in a flex play type position. Again, I'm not here to give you starting advice on guys like Stephon Diggs or, Justin Jefferson. Obviously start your studs. This is more so hey, if if bye week is the first week of the season this year is week 5. So if you're looking for someone to plug in for Keenan Allen or someone who's on bye, Michael Wilson might be a good play. Next up, we have Breece Hall. Now, Breece hasn't done much this season. He had a nice game to start the year, but it was a little more fluky, right? He only had 10 attempts, and he just made the most of them, had ripped off a huge run. But the news coming out is that he's set for a full workload, as you can see here. So he's not going to be on a snap count. With that in mind, they're playing the Denver defense. And Denver is terrible this year. It's the opposite of the 49ers. Basically, start any player against the Denver defense is the strategy this year. So if you've been benching Breece after, week 2 or week 3, I think now is the time to put him into your starting lineup. And, let's not hold off on Breece because you have both the positive matchup and the positive news. Double positive, let's go. Get him in there. All right, so next up, Romeo Doubs. The reason I like Romeo Doubs is he seems to be the number 1 target for Jordan Love. They have a chemistry building there. And I think, and I'll get into Christian Watson next for my sits, but I think that it's the same situation with Marquise Brown being the field stretcher and Michael Wilson getting the targets. Doubs is getting the targets, 13 targets, 9 receptions, 95 yards. Throwing a touchdown, the dude's a top 10 option. And Watson, conversely, is that field stretcher. And Rodgers was the one, throwing it downfield and giving Watson those big plays. I think Doubs is going to get the volume, especially if you're in your PPR format. It's been back-to-back weeks now. We see 18 points. And the first week we saw 18 points. The only down week was the Falcons. And Falcons defense has been great this year. So it's kind of not a big surprise that he was held in check. So with that said, start Doubs, which leads into Christian Watson. The reason why I'm concerned, and I already kind of talked about the field stretching and it's not going to catch those deep balls as much. The reason why I'm concerned is the volume isn't there, right? If he doesn't get the touchdown last week, he's putting up a dud basically for you. And granted, he's coming off of the injury, the hamstring injury, but hamstring injuries for wide receivers are never a good situation. They can easily re-injure them. And I think I would feel a little more confident starting him, sometime after the bye. They're playing Denver week 7. Maybe that's, again, starting against the Denver defense. He has a little more rest. But I think he's a sit this week. Just not feeling super confident with Watson right now. So please, if you have Watson, just sit him this week and wait it out. After the bye, start him maybe against Denver defense. Next one up is Jameson Williams. Now, Jameson obviously had the suspension and then it got lifted early, so he's ready to go week 5 against Carolina, which is a fairly good matchup. The problem is I don't think he's going to have the snap count. And they've said, in reports Dan Campbell is just he just needs to be a good receiver. He doesn't need touchdowns. He doesn't need yards. He just needs to put in effort. And that's not the kinds of things you need to be hearing when you want to start a player in fantasy football. So, I think it's a little hesitancy here to just go out and start him. Obviously, if you have no one else, I mean, take a chance. The guy could get like a touchdown and put up like, a Watson type stat line, like 2 catches and a touchdown. But yeah, I just don't think he's going to come out week 1 back off of the suspension and just go nuclear and win your week. So for that reason, I would temper expectations, leave him on the bench. The final one is Jordan Addison. It hurts to say because he looked great. I mean, it's tough for rookies to come into the league and just immediately produce, and he was one of those guys. The problem that I see here, and it's not entirely about him getting a goose egg in week 4. It's more so if you look at the snap count, he was trending in the right direction. 56% week 1, 69% week 2, 71% week 3, only going up. What happens week 4? Down to 58%. What is going on? Like, granted, he didn't get the targets either, right? But I don't like to see snap count trending downwards. That's my main concern. Obviously, 0 points is also not good, but that's going to happen time to time in fantasy, even with great players. So, yeah, it's a little concerning that his snap percentage is trending down. I think it's just something I want to wait and see. Maybe start him week 6 against Chicago again, another sort of similar matchup with like the Denver Broncos defense. He's probably going to get his even on a lower percentage snap count. So let's see what the numbers look like week 5. But if you're in a situation where you just like have to start someone, I mean, maybe you can throw him in there. But personally, I would just be looking elsewhere at wide receiver because of the snap count trending downwards. So those are my starts. Those are my sits. And can go through them real quick. So again, it was for starting was Michael Wilson. Then it was Breece Hall. Then it was Romeo Doubs. And then my 3 sits were Christian Watson, Jameson Williams, and Jordan Addison. So let me know what you guys think of these picks for week 5. Those are my starts and sits. Leave a comment and let's have a discussion. But I'll see you guys in the next video.